Hi Libra, welcome to The Modern Spiritualist. My name is Raheem. Today we're going to look at February for you guys. This is a general reading, so take what resonates, leave what does not, and you can use this for Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Did a Celtic Cross spread for February, plus an Oracle card from the Threads of Fate Oracle. I'm using Quantum Tarot. It's a new deck, so we'll see how this goes. This is certainly, I bought this to push myself, so I don't know this deck very well yet, but we'll see what comes out, and I'm excited. So let's look at your oracle first. I pulled the Observer. So keep in mind that February is a Mercury retrograde month, and so most people, they're either doing deep inner work or it's just a time to kind of rest and revise. So I'm kind of getting a feeling of like more rest and revision for you guys, although there is some reflection and healing to do as well. A good deal of it looks like. But with this Observer card kind of tying everything together, what I'm feeling is that you don't have to dig too hard, or that's the wrong phrasing. You don't have to push past a certain point in terms of like how far you can go. Like honor your threshold this month. And take a bit of a backseat and just kind of allow things to move through you, if that makes sense. So you don't have to take a lot of action if you don't desire to. I'm feeling like you'll get the most out of this month if you do take more of a backseat. Not that you won't work or whatever, or have things on your plate, but I think it's a good month not to overbook, because things will be coming up for you to be addressed and observed and healed. And so I think a big aspect of this healing is just being in a state of acceptance and allowing things to be what they are without judgment. Okay, so that's kind of the main theme that we have going into this month. If you have meditation or spiritual practices that allow you to take the observer role, and just kind of watch everything go by in your mind and your body, then I think you're going to feel the most comfortable. So really lean into your practices this month, especially like mindfulness practices in particular. That will be a really good resource for you. So let's look at what all of this has in store for you moving into the Celtic Cross. So your center point this month, we have the Knight of Cups. What a beautiful, beautiful card. There's something very cerebral about the start of this month, Libra, kind of like you're in a very kind of quiet reflection period. It seems like it's very easy vibes kind of entering the month for the most part. I feel like you've already kind of wrapped up a cycle and done some healing and kind of leveled up your emotional world. So, and I do remember that from January, like kind of like a connecting with nature energy. So I think maybe you just feel more well-resourced coming into February than you have in the past. And so something actually feels really quite calm and settled about this energy, and it seems like you're in greater touch with your emotions, and in particular, I can feel the retrograde starting to come on. I can feel my words not being as eloquent. It's hilarious. I have like a third house stellium, so Mercury totally affects me intensely. What was I just saying? So you're in greater touch with your emotions, in particular, the emotions that make you feel good. I feel like you have more access to joy and ease and kind of like a lightheartedness coming into the month. And so that feels great. So congratulations are in order for that, because it looks like you have a bit of a rest period before you jump into the thick of it again, which is lovely. So crossing the Knight of Cups, the Nine of Wands, check your alignment, particularly your core. I'm feeling navel, solar plexus, and heart chakra just require an adjustment. It doesn't seem like it's particularly disruptive. It just feels like you've had to do some adjustment work recently, and because you've leveled up in some way, especially in regards to like your grounding and your emotions, it's almost like you just kind of have to pop some stuff back into place to allow that to fully flow. So your two emotional centers, your two core emotional centers are your stomach and your heart. Okay, so your stomach, your navel chakra, your sacral chakra, rules primal emotions. That includes anger, sexuality, body-based emotions. Your heart rules compassion, grief, your humanity style emotions. Love, and connection to others. Okay, so while your sacral kind of tells you via emotions what you need to adjust within yourself, your heart tells you via emotions about your interconnectedness with other things and you know, the relationships in your life and your feelings around that and things like that. So with that said, that's a simplification, but with that said, it's like I feel like your heart and your sacral in particular, because your emotions are in a new place now, it's like they're just not quite lining up. They're not quite lining up, and your solar plexus is kind of stuck in the middle of that lack of lineup. But that's just it really is a simple adjustment. It's an adjustment that needs to be made. And once your heart and your sacral are talking to each other, and then balancing your emotions well via that communication, it looks like you're going to sink even deeper into your grounding and into kind of your renewed sense of self that's coming out of these new emotions that you have access to. So let me feel the way into doing that. So it will naturally happen if you relax. Which is why it's so key to just observe, right? It's so key to just observe and to take time for yourself to do that, to rest and allow things to kind of naturally adjust themselves, because they will. And so if you fight it by being too busy or just not tapping into yourself or allowing things to shift and adjust as they need to, being in the flow in that way, it's going to be harder because it's going to start to get blocked, especially in your throat and your solar plexus and your heart. It's starting to get jammed up as I say that. So so it's really key to come back into your breath, because if you observe your breath and allow your breath to just naturally be what it is, it's going to click into place on its own. Okay, so you kind of have a choice here, you know, whether or not these centers align, but it doesn't look like it will be so difficult for them to, as long as you give yourself the breath and the space to do so. Okay. In your deep past affecting the present, we have the 7 of Wands. Yeah, so this feels like you're coming out of a time, and it really feels like this just happened, like this was an adjustment you kind of made in January. I remember that clearing, or that reading very well. And so this is indicating a time in which you are much more, you were running your energy mentally and not getting as much input from your body, or you know, being grounded into the earth. It's kind of like you're operating on story, or just operating in the ether. Maybe some of you, if you're ethereally inclined, but it's just it's indicating a time where your mind was spinning, or you were just straight up out of your body and kind of in the spirit realm. And so what happens is energy kind of spins off in these different directions, because the mind is such a high frequency, it just moves so fast. And so that's what you're coming out of. And so that's why this adjustment is intense, because you have this old habit pattern, right, that you've been working on adjusting and will continue to coming into this month. You have an old habit pattern that's not working for you. And so as you're sinking into this new way of being, you're going to have to consciously work. I don't think too hard, but you are going to have to consciously work to reprogram that pattern. And so that's why this observer card is so key, because it's not about, you know, thinking things through or analyzing where you are or, you know, any of that kind of energy. It is literally just about being in your body and breathing, just being with the breath. And through consciously making that choice every time you remember, over and over and over again, to just be with the breath, be in the body, be with the breath. That's what's going to rewire this naturally, this alignment that needs to snap into place here with your heart and your sacral, with your core chakras. And so it's like, if this is who you are now, you know, coming into February with this energy where, you know, you're much more in the flow, you're much more in touch with your emotions because you're in your body instead of your mind so much. You're just going to have to solidify that pattern via continuing to practice being with the breath, right? It's not automatic right now. It's, oh yeah, I have to do this thing, right? So just remind yourself of that, you know, this mind-based pattern is what you're coming out of, and to sink into the new way of being, you really need to focus on the breath. Okay, so going into foundation, this is what's supporting you this month. I'm gonna have to look this up because this deck has like 2 cards that aren't in a typical deck, and I didn't look before it just has an infinity symbol, and I don't know what that means, so let's just see really quickly. The universe. The universe was created about 15 billion years ago in a huge explosion known as the Big Bang. The 4 fundamental forces in all particles and matter were created in the first few moments after the bang, but it took millions of years for galaxies and stars to form. The universe is still expanding, pushed on by the distant aftershock of its moment of creation. The universe card is like the world card, only it asks us to expand our awareness still further. It requires a paradigm shift in our thinking, a realization that the reality we perceive is but a tiny component of all that is. Beautiful. So, remembering that interconnectedness to all things, not just Earth, which, you know, I think Earth was kind of your focus in January. Not just Earth, but the entire cosmos, you know, we're this, you know, this combination of atoms and, well, subatomic particles turning, like, you know, forming into atoms, forming into molecules, forming into, you know, this carbon-based life that we are. You know, these bodies that with synapses that fire and give us consciousness, right? It's amazing. And then we're on this huge planet with that, you know, versatility of life and all these carbon-based life forms with the same, you know, unique but same configuration of you know, particles, subatomic, atomic, etc. And then, you know, that the Earth is part of this solar system. The solar system is part of this galaxy. Galaxy is part of this universe. The universe is part of this multiverse, and it goes on like that for infinity. And so what's going to support you this month is remembering that interconnectedness to all things. Like, you know, we are all matter and energy, basically made up of the same particles, same subatomic particles in different configurations on, you know, micro levels, macro levels. But it's all the same. It's just levels and frequencies of the same. And so remembering that interconnectedness, that we're all just atoms, right? I think it's going to help you connect with your breath this month and get out of your head. I mean, you could be in your head here and just, you know, kind of launch into science land or metaphysics land and just, you know, think about all these things as well. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily harmful all the time, but I think the key here is feeling into that interconnectedness instead of contemplating it necessarily. Not that you can't contemplate, but just try not to overthink, right? Because then you're just bypassing. And we don't want you to bypass. We want you to be here now in this body, in this time, with your breath. So feeling into that interconnectedness that you have with all things is going to provide, I think, both like wonder, you know, and awe, but also this safety net of, you know, energy can't be created or destroyed. It just is, and you're just a fundamental part of this across space-time. And maybe, you know, being in that breathtaking space of how well you are held by the universe, how well you're held by the earth, in terms of, you know, life and matter are fleeting and yet, eternal and ever-changing and expansive, and it's such a beautiful thing. It's so awe-inspiring, and I think that's actually going to help you stay in the flow and connect, is just remembering that you're a part of this huge, huge, massive thing that we call existence, right? Beautiful, beautiful. And just sit with that. Be with the breath. Be in that flow, that interconnectedness, that oneness, that love, right? And I think that's really your task here, because despite anything else that may or may not be going on, what else is there other than life and breath and being here now? So be here now and let that anchor you. Just be with it without having to change it, without looking for what isn't working. Just being accepting of what is, and through that acceptance of what is, being able to feel all the gifts and blessings that are present in each moment. That's really so powerful. Okay, crowning you this month, 3 of Swords. Oof. Heart block. Heart chakra block. Into your throat too. This being in your crown is interesting because it's basically the divine inspiration placement. So I think this and this together, this kind of holding the ground and this kind of holding the cosmos for you, are a dynamic that you're going to want to keep in your mind. Because what this is basically saying, what the message is here, is that the heart cannot be tarnished. It can only be veiled. And so if there's a belief or a mindset that you've been hurt beyond repair in some way, or you're wounded in some way, I just think it's important to remember that wounding that we all carry, we all experience wounding in this life. Ultimately to experience what healing is and what being whole feels like, so that we have a comparison, so that we have a journey that we can walk and experience the ecstasy of coming back into that wholeness. And so it's important to remember that wounding that you experience in this incarnation that you're currently invested in, that wounding isn't something that you're going to carry with you for eternity. It's not. It's something you're dealing with now in this lifetime, so that you can heal and then ultimately get the wisdom out of it. So there is a way past your wounding. There's real healing that can take place, and I think it's easier to be with the pain of our wounding, of our heartache, when we realize it's just an experience that we're having and not something that's the core of us, because the core of us can't be tarnished, because it's just light. It just can't be. It's just our innermost self is the one that is all. And that's all there is. And so pain is just a moment in time, and it teaches us something. That's why it exists. So if you can reframe your pain into, this is a temporary experience that I'm having so that I can discover the gift underneath it and grow and evolve and change and heal, then it won't feel as overwhelming to you. And so, your resource here is, remember that you're a part of that interconnected whole. You're not separate from it. You're not broken in any way. And then you can just approach pain as it is and just allow it to be what it is. Because when you bring your attention to it in full acceptance of your pain, it starts to shift. And so I think that's the magic here, is if you can bring your attention to the pain, you'll see that it it just begins to shift the second that you validate it. Okay. Beautiful. It doesn't seem too hard. I think or too intense or difficult, really. I think that the task is, it's like you're exercising a new muscle here, like with this observer energy where you're being with your breath, you're being in your body, you're being interconnected with the whole web of life. Making that a habit, making that a baseline way of being, making that a part of you, just takes practice. And so it's kind of like when you walk into a gym for the first time in a very long time, and you're like, oh, my muscles aren't enjoying themselves, right? Because you're just beginning to build the muscle, and you have to get used to what working out feels like. You have to get used to what it feels like to push, to be in that discomfort of really working a muscle. And that is the same thing here. You're working that muscle of mindfulness, of observing the breath, being in the body, not letting your mind be in control, just letting your being be in control. And when that starts to happen, things do start to come up because you're open to the experiences your body is having. Your body is the one that processes emotions. Your mind interprets a story, but your body is the one processing the emotions. So if you can drop the story, the mindset about the emotions that make it hard for you to process them. And I think that is about kind of this, like, maybe the story of like, I'm broken, I'm wounded beyond repair, this will never heal, like those stories that you tell themselves, like you're marked in some way. If you can shift to, no, I can't be tarnished, my heart can't be tarnished, this is just an experience I'm having, then these things, as they start to come up, you'll be able to allow them to just exist, to be in the discomfort of that. And then as you bring your attention to that discomfort, in full acceptance, allowing it to shift, and it will. You don't have to do anything other than give it your attention and allow it to be within you. And it will shift on its own. Okay. New circumstance, 10 of Swords. Interesting. I don't know what this is, I haven't looked at the booklet, but it really does seem like a collapsing star kind of energy, or like a dying star. Just want to feel into that more deeply and see if that resonates. Yeah, there's a death happening here. Letting go of the old way of being, letting go of the old you. The old you that was much more mind identified, much more mind active, kind of an imbalance between the mind and the body. That you is dying. And it's not quite grief. Maybe there's just a tiny, tiny bit of grief, because there's always a bit of grief when a version of us dies, because we were identified with it to a certain point. And it's, you know, it's an ego death, basically. And but it's only just, it's a tiny, tiny little sliver of grief. What I'm really feeling is this sense of sobriety. It's not too intense. It's just very solid. Like this sobriety, like this phase of my being is over. I'm stepping into this new way, and there's a stillness because there is total acceptance of that. And so you're ready for this, Libra. You're ready for all of it. Some of you are, some of you that are really spiritually inclined are probably super stoked. There's a real sobriety of, I am not that person anymore. I am this person, and committing to that, committing to the new you. Beautiful. Your ego this month, Queen of Swords. Beautiful. I mean, this is you. This is Libra. This is Libra energy. I'm still getting some activity in my sacral, and like the back of my neck also is highlighted. I feel more adjustments need to be made. It's just really like, because you're stepping into a new way of being, it means you're stepping into a new alignment, and so everything just needs to align, and you just need to give it time to integrate and do that on its own. That's why this month is an integration month. So really, as much as you can get away with not doing things, I would highly recommend you do it. Just sit, just enjoy yourself, just allow your body to naturally shift and change as it needs to and find its new alignment, because it's just looking for it. That's all. It's looking for how to hook itself up now. And the more you observe your breath in that stillness, the more it will be able to do it on its own. So there's this huge allowance. Yeah, I mean, this is just a great month to remember who you are. You know, you are Libra, you are celestial, you're intelligent, you are fair and just. And you're more than that. You're a combination of so many things depending on you. So just step into that. Step into that feeling of remembering who you are in all of your glory, all of your beauty, the highest ideal of you. I think those of you that have a practice of connecting with your highest self, do it this month. If you don't, do it anyway. If you've never done it before, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't. Just, you know, sit, breathe, and then ask to connect with your highest self and see what happens. I think that they may have a nugget of wisdom for you, and it looks like you're very open to receiving what that wisdom is. So that's kind of your energy, or where your ego is at this month, is really connecting with that high version of yourself, and just being in that energy and just being in your glory and allowing yourself to feel that. There's a lot of self-worth and self-value that comes with being able to do that, and so I applaud you for that. You know, it takes work to get there. But that's what you're prepared to do this month, is be with you in the cleanest, calmest, grounded, but most joyous way possible. It's really beautiful work. Wow. Okay, your environment this month. This is a major arcana, and it doesn't list what it is. What is number 9? The Hermit, the Hermit, the Hermit. Okay. Yeah, so you'll be given opportunity by the universe, by your external environment, to do this inner work. So, you know, maybe work calms down, projects calm down, school calms down, whatever it is that you do that keeps you busy on the day-to-day. It's not like you'll have nothing, so don't freak out, but the universe will give you opportunities to rest and be with your own energy and to unwind, and it's so that you have the space and the opportunity to do all of this. Okay, so keep that in mind. King of Wands. Those of you that are in leadership positions, maybe it's not so much that the universe gives you an opportunity to calm down, but that you create that opportunity for yourself by getting people that are, you know, getting people that work for you or work, you know, under you for a project or whatever, getting them to kind of carry the load this month so that you can take a back seat. Some of you are just in a position to do that because you're leaders and whatever it is that you do. The rest of you, you may have a partner that you ask to take on the load for you, and this partner is very good at being a leader, at being an authority figure, at directing things as needed, so you can trust this person if you need to take a time out. Yeah, this is somebody in your life that will carry the slack. Whatever slack you need to create, they will pick up the slack. So regardless, if it's, you know, if this is family life and you have a partner that needs to be more active with the kids so that you can do this work, you know, that could be another possibility. There's a King of Wands-esque figure, somebody of authority, somebody who's a good leader, somebody who's very visionary and intelligent and directional and focused, that can carry some of this load for you while you do this work. So lean on this person, rely on this person. They may also be a confidant for you. This person seems a little no nonsense, but not in a way that's harsh, just in a way that's like, okay, what is needed in this moment and how can I meet that need? And it's very much that kind of person, very focused. So could be a Leo or an Aries or something like that. Doesn't have to be, could be anyone. Okay, hopes and fears this month. We have the Fool. You're excited for this new start. You're also scared because you don't know who you are anymore, because you haven't learned it yet. You haven't had the experience of it yet. It's new. And so you're still, it's kind of like you got to fake it till you make it on some level. You also just need to trust yourself and trust that your soul's done this work before and knows how to get there. And so there may be, residual memories, if we're talking big context here, of what it is like to do this, even though you haven't done it in this way, in this incarnation before. It's like you still have that deep rooted knowledge within you, echoes of past lives, or echoes of the highest power being with that oneness pre-incarnation, of what it is like to set off on this kind of new soul journey, whatever it is that you're doing, this place where you're just so much more present in your body, aligned, and observational, being in the interconnectedness. You're feeling that in a new way, wherever you are, whether you've been doing spiritual work forever or you haven't even had a spiritual awakening yet. It's like, on some level, you're here in a way that you never had before. You've leveled up in some way, and you're feeling that interconnectedness in a new way. And so that's both really exciting and also really terrifying. And the fear just comes out of fear of the unknown. You feel like you haven't been here before in this life. So just keep in mind that that's going to happen. Part of being human is being afraid of the unknown, because biologically, the unknown could signal danger. We don't know what's around the corner, right? So it's important to remember that you are safe. Most of us, live in, or have some degree of safety. We live in a home, we have support, we have food on the table. Some of us don't, and that's a problem, but, speaking in terms of like the average American life, most of us have at least enough, and enough to survive, to keep going. And so lean on the fact that you have gotten to this point. You've survived to this point. Nothing's killed you yet. You're a survivor. You will most likely continue to survive, even in the newness, right? And so being comfortable with that unknown and knowing that it's not going to kill you where you are, that's just going to be an important perspective to lean onto, and to just be okay with sitting in the discomfort a little bit. It's part of the journey, Outcome this month. Oh, and of course, lean on this interconnectedness. That's the safety net. The safety net is, I am forever a part of this ever-changing, universal, eternal energy. This energy that can't be created or destroyed. Well, it's been created, and it can't be destroyed. It just changes form. You're a part of that. If you can be in that flow, you'll be able to let go a little bit and be in that unknown, and be able to engage your curiosity and your observational qualities rather than being in fear, okay? So don't shame yourself if you do enter a moment where you're in fear, rather than in the flow of curiosity. Just observe that you're there, hold space for yourself, resource if you need to, whether it's this King of Wands confidant, connecting with the universe in some way, whatever you do that brings you back to yourself, and then see if you can engage with that curiosity again. Okay, it's a really good month to just have a lot of grace with yourself and not judge anything that comes up, because all of this is new. And so you're gonna have to manage that fluctuation of sometimes just holding this dichotomy of like the part of you that's so excited to be on this adventure, and the part of you that's scared to change. And welcome to the path. Outcome this month: 6 of Cups. I pulled reversals, but I'm not feeling a lot of reversals from this deck. It's kind of like I have this desire to just kind of upright them all. So maybe universals just don't work with universals. Maybe reversals just don't work with this deck very well. So I'm gonna ignore them. 6 of Cups. So around the end of the month, you're gonna get back into touch with the flow. You're gonna connect with an inner child part of you, a part of you that I think you reclaimed on some level. That's why you're feeling this I am me, I am Libra, I am the eternal Libra energy thing going on. It's going to lead you to this place where you connect with an innermost self that you have not connected with in a very long time. And it's just going to be such a happy union. It's just going to feel so good. It's going to feel tender and vulnerable because you're really connecting with something in your heart. It's like you did the healing work, whatever is blocking your heart. And after you do that, you're connecting with this self or at least through in the process of doing that, you're connecting with this self that has been wounded in the past, but it looks like it's been healed through the work that you do this month, this observational work, this allowing of things to be, this mindset shift of being interconnected with all of these things and the safety that that creates. It's going to allow this inner child self, this part of your heart in particular, to want to come out to play. And so they're going to engage with you, and you're going to feel emotions that you felt before, but emotions that you haven't felt in a long time. And it's just going to feel so good, but it's going to feel a little weird because I think there's still going to just be a little bit of worry that it'll be unsafe to feel this because it could get hurt. And so with that, I would just remind you to resource well, make sure that you're protecting yourself, call on protection from the universe. Don't confide in anybody that you don't trust with your innermost self, you know, and allow yourself to be in that mush, in that, you know, vulnerable place where you're like, oh, this feels good, but I'm, you know, worried about coming out of the corner, you know. Just do what you can to protect this child and to let this child know that they're safe, okay? It's paired with the Eight of Swords. You're gonna have to let your guard down first. There's guards over your heart where this child is. And it looks like the easiest way to go about doing this is to kind of, if you see these swords here, if you see them kind of like they're guarding your heart, like they're guardrails or something, or bars, I think it'll be easiest for you to just dismantle one sword at a time, like one bar at a time. So each bar over your heart, observe one bar or one sword, right? Ask it why it's there, why it feels the need to protect in this way, what it's afraid of, what it needs. And then when you address the need, you know, pull the sword out, let it die. And so one by one, you're kind of letting your guard down in a way that feels safe because it's slow, and you're only letting guards down that don't need to be there. You know, they're just taking up your energy or your space, or not allowing you to connect with yourself or others in healthy ways. And so you're only taking down guards that are not necessary or in your way in some way. And as you take down those guards, you're slowly, over the course of the month, revealing this inner child part that wants to be with you and needs your attention, okay? Beautiful work, deep work, deep work. Make sure that you take time for yourself. Trust the people in your life to carry any load that they need to. Confide in anyone that you need to. But, you know, keep your secrets close. And when in doubt, observe the breath. If you have a moment that feels really difficult or intense or sporadic, you know, scattered, resource by coming back into the breath and the body. And then just, you know, whenever you can, feel that interconnectedness to everything around you, and you're going to be good. This is really, really expansive, high potential for awakening, spiritual awakening, or leveling up your awakening in some way. And so, you know, while there's going to be some difficult things coming up to address, that's interspersed among this really deep feeling of peace and intimacy with self, self-knowledge, self-awareness, and glory, you know, exalting yourself, recognizing your eternal soul beyond the ego self. And it's just going to feel so good and safe and powerful, okay? So if you'd like to schedule something with me, private reading, so we can discuss this, please do so in the box below, or discuss whatever you want. Hit like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see the next Libra video. I will see you guys in March. Good luck.